are one of a kind. Each one of you with a one-of-a-kind purpose. And there is no one else anywhere on the planet, there never has been, there never will be, someone just like you. Currently, there are 7 billion, think of it, people on this planet. And yet, out of those billions of people, there's no one that looks just like you. Nobody has your weird nose, or crooked tooth, or funky ears, or, freckles, or smile. No one looks just like you. Your facial expressions are exclusive to you alone. No one has your heartbeat rhythm, your voice print, your fingerprint, your handprint, your footprint. No one is created just like you. And no one on this planet, in this room or planet, really, seriously, that has the exact same combinations of, resourcefulness and intelligence and personal taste and personality and perspective and values. There is nobody. Turn to your neighbor and pinch him and say, "Wake up, Connie, because you're really one of a kind." There is nobody. Can you grasp, really? I want you to get that today. Before we even begin, I want you to grasp how truly unique and marvelous you are. Psalm 139, verses 14 through 16 says, "Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. It is amazing to think about. Your workmanship is marvelous. You were there while I was being formed. You saw me before I was born and scheduled each day of my life before I even began to breathe." God made you unique with a unique purpose. That's what we need to know. So, hey, why were you born? Do you know? Why were you born again? Do you have any idea what your God-given purpose is? And if you do, are you walking in your God-given purpose? Turn to your neighbor and put on this really beautiful smile and say, "Honey, she's talking to you today." Because I am talking to every one of you, because I believe with all my heart that every single person that is hearing my voice right now has a unique purpose given to you by God. And it's not until you realize that purpose and embrace that purpose and walk in that purpose that you're ever going to find true contentment and fulfillment. You need to be walking in God's purposes. So this week we're going to be talking about how to boldly walk in God's purposes. Next week we're going to be talking about walking out God's purposes in the dark when you don't know what to do. And the following week, we're going to be talking about walking God's purpose in the valley of loss. When it feels like you're farther away from your goals and farther away from your purpose than ever before, what do? But for today, I really believe that these messages can not only change our lives, but they can change every single person our lives touch. It can be life really changing. So let's get started, okay? You want to take a nap? Let's get started. Here's how you can walk boldly in your God-given purpose. First, just say yes. Turn to your neighbor and tell them, just say yes, baby. Now, Elijah had kind of a roller coaster experience in life. One moment he's got a calling fire down out of heaven, encounter with God, and the next he's depressed and he is having an epic pity party. I mean, this dude felt so sorry for himself. But all of that led him to the mountain of God, where God gave him his last assignments. And one of those assignments was for him to anoint Elisha as the prophet to take over for him. Now, Elijah found Elisha in a field behind a pair of oxen. This guy was just a farmer. But he found him, and as he casually walked by Elisha, he just threw his mantle over his shoulders. Now, I don't know why Elisha knew what was happening there, honestly. But he did. He left his oxen, he ran to Elijah, and he said, listen, let me just go kiss my mom and my dad goodbye, and then I'll follow you. And then so casually, it was like to the point of rudeness. Elijah says, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Seriously, if you read that passage, he was so rude and so cold about the whole thing. But Elisha went and said his goodbyes and followed after Elijah and became his assistant. Now, I want you to picture this. A casual throwing of a mantle. Elijah saying, I don't know, I'm not stopping you, go, It wasn't one of those Paul, light from heaven, voice knock you off your donkey kind of encounter. This was just like a tag, you're it. Turn your neighbor going, tag, you're it. Just a tag, you're it. And Elisha said yes. There was no, let me pray and fast about it. No throwing fleeces out to see if it was really God's will kind of hesitation that we all like to do. He just said, yes. I think we need to practice. Everybody say yes. Oh, that was really good. All of us need to find the thing that we were created to do and the people we were created to impact and walk in the power that comes from walking in alignment with God's purposes. We need to find that. Are you ready? Are you ready to say yes? Oh, this area is a little more ready than this area, but you're getting there, right? Guys, you're getting ready. Oh, yes, see? I knew you were. So I want you to say yes. Now, I know some of you are thinking today, I'm not an Elisha. No, you're not. God didn't want you to be an Elisha. God made you be you. And that's what God wants. He wants you to be the person He created you to be and do the thing that God you always read that verse. He planned out your days before you even took a breath. He wants you and I to do the thing that we're created to do. Because honestly, there is no one who can fully fulfill the purpose that God created you to fulfill. Are you hearing me? Oftentimes, I've talked to so many people who've said, there's better people who can do. No, there is nobody better than you. Because God made you that way. He created you that way. And so God has gifted you. 1 Peter 4:10 says, God has given each of you a gift from His great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve each other. That's 1 Peter 4:10. Now, God has gifted every one of us in a way that will help us to fulfill the purpose for which God created us. Isn't that marvelous? He made you for a purpose, and He gave you the gifts that you're going to need to carry out that purpose. And so when you're seeking to find, okay, what is it, God? Why did you create me? You got to look at the gifts that He gave you, because the purpose and the gifts kind of go together. And that's why our growth track is so very, very important, Next week is week 2, and you will be taking a test to find out exactly what your spiritual gifts are and where you can use them. That sounds like a good plan. Turn to your neighbor and say, you haven't gone yet, you better go next week. Use a finger because that's, more authoritative. It's more like a mom, or a dad. You need to go next week because it's an awesome opportunity to discover those gifts. When you discover your gifts and it kind of gives you kind of a big picture of what you can be doing in God's kingdom to fulfill his purpose in your life. But I'm going to tell you, the step-by-step directions won't come in Growth Track. The step-by-step directions are going to come when you ask God in your devotional times and you listen to his answer, just like Elijah listened to the still, quiet voice of God in the mountains. What you need to ask God every day in your prayer life, ask him questions like, what's the next step for my career? God made you for a purpose. What's the next step in my ministry? What's the next step for my family? What's the next step in my education? What's the next step in my finances? You see, Jesus said, my sheep listen. That's what I talked about earlier. You ask God these questions, but you got to listen. Jesus said, my sheep listen to my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. Can I be really honest? Yes. I got one taker. Okay, got a couple more. Okay, I'm going to be really honest. A lot of times when we say we're seeking God's will, what we're actually doing is telling God, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to rubber stamp it for me. You know it's right. We go to God already with a preconceived idea. And in all honesty, God is going to be hesitant to give you any kind of plan when you're going to him with a plan already. Does that make sense? Sure it does. Going to God with a plan isn't an effective way to find out what his will is. Really, it is not. So, you must be willing to say yes. Be committed to pursuing God's purpose before he ever reveals it to you. When we make these contracts, we always want to read the small print before we sign them. That's good legal business. But with God, he's saying, don't read the small print. Do you trust me? Do you trust me enough to just say yes, even before I tell you what the thing is? That's what he is looking for. If he knows you're going to procrastinate and maybe not do it anyways, he's going to be slow to tell you what his will is. But if you are quick to say yes, Jesus died for you. Aren't you willing to live for him? Aren't you willing to say, yes, God, I surrender my life, I surrender my will, I surrender my time and my energy, I surrender all to you. I'm your girl. Guys, I wouldn't say that. But you can say, I'm your guy. I'll do whatever it is. I'm here. Use me. I say yes. And the second thing you can do to walk boldly is to stay focused. Now, this message is all about Elijah and Elisha. And so far, I have kept their names right. But we might have a little problem here. Because when the Lord decided it was time for Elijah's work on earth to be finished, Elijah and Elisha left Gilgal. Now, Elijah told Elisha, you just stay here because God's telling me to go to Bethel. But Elisha's response was, I solemnly swear, as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not abandon you. So Elijah and Elisha went to Bethel. In Bethel, the prophets came to Elisha and said, did you know the Lord is going to take your master away from you today? And Elisha said, yeah, I know. Be quiet. And then Elijah said, you stay here in Bethel. God has told me to go on to Jericho. Well, Elisha's response was, I solemnly swear on God's life and on your life, I will not abandon you. So Elijah and Elisha left Bethel and went on to Jericho. Now, when they get to Jericho, the prophets tell Elisha, did you know that the Lord is going to take your master away from you today? Elisha said, yeah, I know. Be quiet. And then Elijah, I told you I started messing up. Elijah said to Elisha, you stay here at Jericho. The Lord's told me to go to the Jordan River. And Elisha was consistent. He said, I swear, as the Lord live and you live, I will not abandon you. So both Elijah and Elisha went to the Jordan River, where 50 prophets watched from a distance. When they got to the Jordan River, Elijah took his mantle, folded it, and hit the water, and the Jordan River parted. And they walked over on dry ground. And once they got there, Elijah said, okay, Elisha, before I'm taken up, what do you want me to do? Now I'm going to take up the reading now in 2 Kings 2, starting with verse 9. Now remember, Elijah said, what can I do for you? Elisha's answer was, I want a double portion of what you have, and I want to be your successor. And it says, you have asked a difficult thing, Elijah replied. If you see me when I'm taken from you, then you will get your request. But if not, then you won't. And they were walking along and talking, and suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by horses of fire. It drove between the two men, separating them, and Elijah was carried up into heaven on a whirlwind into the heavens. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, I see the chariots and charioteers of Israel. Here's what you need to know. Elisha stayed focused. He didn't let the prophets at Bethel or Jericho distract him. He didn't even allow a chariot of fire with fire horses distract him. He kept his eyes on Elisha, and he saw him go up in the whirlwind. Now, I want you to understand that just because you're walking out God's purposes doesn't mean there won't be distractions. In fact, I can guarantee you there will be distractions. And walking out God's purposes doesn't exempt you from life's challenges. Kind of the opposite. Now, I was in Turkey when God gave me these messages. And I was talking to men and women who were imprisoned for the cause of Christ. They were put in jail. 2 young women that I talked to were in jail for 30 8 days for the cause of Christ. My husband talked to you about the gentleman who was in prison for 5 years for the cause of Christ. And while I'm there, I'm blown away because it didn't stop them. It did not stop them from pursuing God's purposes in their lives. And I thought about Paul. Floggings and stonings and shipwrecks and imprisonments didn't stop Paul either. Now, Paul's attitude, to live is Christ, to die is gain. And he told the church at Rome in Romans 8:18, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Basically, Paul is saying, if I live, I'll serve God. If I die, I'll go to heaven. If you make me suffer, when I get to heaven, I'll have a bigger crown. Whatever, you can't stop me. Paul was unstoppable, and you are unstoppable too if you don't lose your focus. Because the enemy cannot stop a man or woman of God who is focused on God's plan and purpose. He can't stop. But even though the enemy can't forcibly stop you, he's found a way. You know, he's learned that stress and frustration and being overwhelmed often stop us. He can't stop you, so he gets you to stop yourself. He gets you to quit. Now, I know you're thinking to yourself, well, it's just this season am I in. I'm just going to take a break for a little while because the season I'm in. No, what you're doing, you're quitting. And the enemy is winning. Turn your neighbor, no, don't slap him. I was going to say slap, but I wish I could shake you just a little bit. Because the enemy can't stop you. You got to stop being afraid of the enemy and stop being afraid of making mistakes. Start, just here's the key. Don't stop. That's it. That's the key. Don't stop. Don't quit. Turn your neighbor and help me to preach. Tell them, don't you quit. Don't you quit. Okay? The only way to lose is if you quit. So, you know what? Put your hand on your chest and just say, I'm not going to quit. I won't lose because I'm not going to quit. Amen? Then you are unstoppable. Galatians 6, verses 9 through 10 from the Message says, so let us not allow ourselves to get fatigued doing good. At the right time, we will harvest a good crop if we don't, what? Give up or quit. Right now, therefore, every time we get the chance, let us work for the benefit of all, starting with the people closer to us in the community of faith. Now, there's another favorite strategy of the enemy. If he can't get you frustrated, overwhelmed, or stressed, what he likes to do is get you to be busy. Think about that one. Because if you're anything like me, you've got things pulling you in every single direction. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I can say, yeah, life's like that. Yeah, well, see, you and I'm telling you, myself included, we got to make sure that we don't lose our focus. As everything is dragging and pulling on us, we got to make sure that our focus is still on God's purpose for our life. And if some activity doesn't align up with God's purpose for your life, well, maybe you should reconsider being involved in that. Are you thinking about it? You see, remember, walking bold in God's purposes, first saying yes, and the second thing is staying focused, not allow busyness keep you from doing what you know you should be doing. Amen? Amen. Good. Please understand that busyness does not equate living out your purpose. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You say, yes, I understand. Come on, say it. Yes. Yeah, okay, good. So don't allow the enemy's strategies to derail you. Stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing. Amen? And the third is to take a risk. Just take a risk, step out. 2 Kings 2, beginning where we left off in verse 12, going to 14. And as they disappeared from sight, Elisha tore his clothes in distress. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, which had fallen when he was taken up. Then Elisha returned to the bank of the Jordan River. He struck the water with Elijah's cloak and cried out, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" Then the river divided, and Elisha went across. You gotta understand, this man just asked for a double portion of that anointing of Elijah. But he didn't have any bright light or goosebumps that made him know he got it. Okay? You know, his life, he didn't feel any different. Life didn't look any different. So he just had to take a risk. He picked up he didn't even say, "My God." He said, "The God of Elijah." Come on now. And he struck it, but he took a risk. He stepped out. He tried. You won't know what you're capable of until you try, until you take a risk and just go for it. You know what? When I was first young in the Lord, young in the gifts of the Spirit, I had to feel, the power. Right? Before I would pray for someone, because I got to have warmth in the hands. I got to feel something, Don't you laugh at me. You've done the same thing. But I did. I wanted to feel something. But you see, that feeling something isn't faith. Faith is just stepping out and doing what God has told you to do. Taking a risk and just going for it. You're never going to fulfill God's purpose until you do. Man, it's adventure. It's exciting. He's going to take a step of faith into the unknown. And wow, our heart is beating and we're saying, "Good for you, Indiana Jones." But that's exactly what God is asking of each and every one of us. He's asking us to just step out. Take the risk. Do what God has told us to do. Because we're really not content the way we are we? Don't we want to be a little bit more? To do a little bit more? To be the man or woman that God created us to be? Isn't there something, even if it's a little part in you, isn't there something in you that says, I want to go for it? Raise your hands if there's that little thing in you that says, yeah, I want to do more. I want to be more. I want to walk out God's purposes for my life. And if it's there, then you got to step out in faith. As followers of Christ, every single one of us not only is gifted, not only was created, but to do something for God, but we're also called to step out of our comfort zone. Now, I know that we like that comfort zone. There's kind of some shelter and some safety in it. When my husband said they finally opened the door for us to go to Turkey to teach the Iranians. And I said, good. How nice. First of all, right now, Turkey's not really fond of Americans. It's Iranians. Come on. And I don't know a single person. Not one single person. And there was a huge part of me that said, Jerry, you're so excited about going. Go. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. Be gracious unto you and give you peace. You know, there was a big part. I'm being honest here. I'm being transparent. Because sometimes we look at people and we think, well, yeah, they can do it. We look at Indiana Jones and say, well, yeah, because that was a movie, you know. But the reason he did it was because his father needed what was on the other side of that walk. And the reason we step out of our comfort zone is because there's somebody who needs us on the other side. And whether you realize it or not, you have just what they need. I went, kind of dragging my feet, but I went, and it was the most rewarding experience of my life. I'm telling you, taking that step of faith, taking that risk, will be the most rewarding thing that you can do. Remember that God's favor, are you hearing me? God's favor, his peace, his joy, his the contentment and fulfillment, it's all found in pursuing God's purposes. That's where it's at. What have you done in the past when you just felt a little bit of a nudge to talk to somebody about Jesus? What have you done when they've announced a missions trip? What have you done when there was just that urge to give sacrificially? What have you done when someone said, would you be a part of this ministry? You know what? That's not important, because that's the past. Here's my question to you. What are you going to do in the future? What are you going to do when you're nudged by God to do something that's totally out of character for you and totally outside your comfort zone? Will you say yes? Will you stay focused on it? And will you step out in faith and make that risk? I'd like everybody to close their eyes right now. I believe with all my heart that you guys are the most awesome people on the planet. That God has a significant work for you to do. That lives in the South Chicago area, in Illinois, in the U.S., in the world, they're going to be impacted by you saying yes. I believe it, I believe it, I believe it. So I'm going to ask right now for everyone who wants to say yes to God's purposes. I want you to stand.